Hey fellow foodies, it's Faye from facefood.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make these easy and flavorful Parmesan chicken poppers. Super great as a appetizer for your kids, just for yourself. They're so good. So I'm going to start off with cleaning our chicken breast. I just have them in a water solution, just some cold water, some distilled white vinegar, salt, and lemon juice. I'm going to let that sit for about half an hour. And that's going to just help clean the chicken. And after about half an hour, we can go ahead and start cleaning off the fat. So it's still in my water solution. I'm just going to grab each one by one. If you want to pat them dry, just as a safety, precaution, just so it's not a slippery board, you can do that as well. But I'm just going to use my kitchen shears and my knife to cut off any excess fat. I also cut off the, smaller pieces that basically are inedible. They're majority fat. Or any small pieces that are, I know they're going to burn. I cut those off too. So we'll just cut off all those things off all the breast. And then as we do that, we'll place them back into the water solution. After you're done cleaning that all off for each one, you can pour out the water solution from that bowl, place the chicken in a new nice clean bowl, and you don't want to transfer the water. It's just going to be nice and dry. So I'm going to go ahead and cut down on each breast, starting at the thick end. They're pretty thick sizes, about 1-inch cuts. And as we cut them, we can lay down the slice and then cut it into thirds or half, depending on the size of the slice. And you can see there's our chicken poppers. And basically you want to be sure to cut them into pretty uniform sizes so that they cook evenly. But we're just going to continue to cut down on each one. See, way better than chicken nuggets. These things are a lot better for your kids instead of those frozen nuggets. A lot better for you because you know what's in them. They taste great. You'll love them too. Very, very easy to get addicted because they're so small and you just keep eating them. Very, very good. So as you're cutting the pieces, just put them back into your bowl. And we'll continue to do this for each one of them. It's very important when you're working with chicken, especially, that you're working by the sink because you really want to constantly be washing your hands. You want to keep the area clean. So it's very important to work by the sink, constantly wash your hands. Keep 2 kitchen towels near you, one for dry, one for wet. Make sure they're clean. Just keep that all in mind when you're working with chicken. So once we have all the pieces cut and in our bowl, we can go ahead and start chopping the garlic. We're not even going to chop it really. We're just going to crush it down with our knife. This is just going to go in our marinade. So we're just going to need it crushed. We're not going to really need to chop it up. Super easy. I'm using 4 cloves because they're a little bit small, but if you have kind of bigger cloves, you can get away with 3. You can see once we crush it down with our knife, it peels off super easy. Okay, so now I have my dry chicken. I'm going to go ahead and pour in the buttermilk. And I do want to make a note, obviously, when you're transferring it to this bowl, you want to make sure to rinse off and clean the chicken off really well. And then you pour out the water and pat it dry, obviously. That's how we got here. All right, so once you pour in the buttermilk, we're gonna go ahead and add in the whole garlic. All the cloves in there. And then I'm gonna sprinkle in some paprika. Paprika goes really, really well with chicken. So we're just gonna flavor it up with that. No need to measure, I'm just gonna sprinkle some in. It's about maybe a teaspoon. All right, give it a good mix. And my hands are clean and dry. Obviously, you wanna be sure to keep cleaning your hands when you're working with chicken. If you wanna work with gloves, you can do that as well. Right, so you can see all our pieces are uniform, cut up. They're in our marinade. This marinade is going to help make the chicken flavorful, but also tender from the buttermilk. It's going to really kind of break down the meat a little bit. So it's going to be nice and tender. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up with some plastic wrap. We're going to let this sit in the fridge. Ideally, you want to sit it in the fridge overnight, but you can get away with letting it sit for just an hour or two. Right, so once you are ready to fry, you can go ahead and prep up your standard breading ingredients. So we're gonna need flour, egg wash, and some breadcrumbs. We're gonna do the standard breading procedure. So in a bowl, I just have some all-purpose flour, nothing special. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in some more paprika. Okay, so paprika, like I said, it goes really well with chicken. We're adding it in 3 stages in this recipe. Once in the marinade, once in the flour, and then once in the breadcrumbs. Key with paprika or any kind of, chili, you just don't want to overdo it. So I'm adding in some Italian seasoning as well. It's going to add some really nice flavor. And then I'm going to add in some salt. Obviously, I measured it just for the sake of the blog recipe, but if you want to add it to taste, you can do so. I also am adding in some black pepper. Freshly grinded pepper is always the best pepper, so be sure to do that. And then once we have all the ingredients in, I'm going to go ahead and just give this a light mix with my fork, just until everything is uniform. And I probably should have used a bigger bowl. You can see it kind of gave me trouble, but we got through it. So once the flour is done, set it aside and you can work on the egg wash. In my egg wash, I just have some whole eggs, 4 whole eggs specifically. And I just mixed it with some milk, about 3 tablespoons of milk. If you don't have any milk, you can use water, and you can also use heavy cream. So set the egg wash aside and we can work on the breadcrumb mixture. In the breadcrumb mixture, it's just some Italian breadcrumbs. We're using those for flavor. And I'm using some panko. That's going to be great texture. So I used both. You can use one if you just want to do that. Or that's all you have on hand, that's fine. So I'm adding in some Italian seasoning, some paprika, some black pepper, and some salt. Alright, once all the seasoning is in there, you can go ahead and grate in your Parmesan. And that's what's going to make them the Parmesan chicken poppers. I'm using just a block of Parmesan and grating that in. But if you want to purchase already grated Parmesan, you can do that. Just make sure it's, some decent quality. Don't get any of that Kraft garbage. Alright, so our cheese is in. I'm going to just use a fork to distribute this all around and make it nice and uniform. And again, I probably should have used a bigger bowl, but it is what it is. So really that's it in terms of our, breading ingredients. We have our flour ready to go, our egg wash is ready to go, and now our breadcrumbs are ready to go. Super easy. Now we want to set up our station to make sure that it's organized. You want to have a clean bowl, a nice clean bowl for your breaded chicken pieces that you're going to be putting them in. And we have our 3 bowls of flour, egg wash, and breadcrumbs. And now we have our bowl of chicken that was marinating. So we have our station set up and ready to go. And I'm going to just start breading everything. Now, it's important to keep in mind that you want one hand that's kind of going to be your dry hand, one hand that's going to be your wet hand. The reason for that is because if you just use both hands to do both jobs, the chicken mixture, the breading mixture is going to really clump up on your hands, and you're just going to have so much trouble working with this. You're going to need to wash your hands like every 5 seconds. So it's not fun. So definitely keep that in mind. Use one hand as your designated dry hand that you'll use to toss, with the flour and the breadcrumbs. And one hand will be your quote unquote wet hand that you can use to, pick up the chicken from the buttermilk mixture and to toss it in the egg wash. All right, so once they are breaded, you can just place them in your designated dry bowl that you're going to put all your breaded pieces in. And I typically don't work with too many at a time. I work just with a few at a time because it's just easier that way. I like to tap off the excess flour, tap off the excess egg wash, and then place it into the breaded mixture. Another thing is I do like to work near the sink when I'm working with chicken or breading anything really, because it is a mess. So I like to work by the sink to make my life easier. So once all the pieces are breaded, you can go ahead and start frying. I'm just going to put in a few pieces at a time into my fryer. It's at 350, and it is just vegetable oil. And we're going to just fry these up for about 5 minutes or so. Sometimes you might need less depending on the size of the piece, but about 5 minutes should do. They'll rise to the top as they cook. They'll get nice and golden brown. That's how you can tell it's cooked perfectly. So that's what you're looking for. So as we take them out of the fryer, we're going to go ahead and right away season them again with some freshly grinded pepper. I'm going to add some salt over the top as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and grate over the top some more Parmesan cheese. These are wonderful as an appetizer. They're great for a lunch meal for your kids, for you. Give them a try. It's super easy to make, super delicious. The full recipe will be on facefood.com. Subscribe to the channel for more great videos on the way. Like this video, comment below if you have any comments or questions. Until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day.
And I can take it there, cause you know I need it. It really ain't fair, cause you know I mean it. You got all of me at just one time. Stay here with me, we'll be fine. And it take me forever to be